Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of 2025. I can't think of a better way of starting off the new year than a fireside chat with my buddy Patrick. And we're going to have a whole series of videos for you. And one of the first things, Patrick, I want to do is I want to go through and recap some of these players from 2024 that were a surprise. Some of these surprises are good. Some of these are not so good.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into this, two things. I want to remind you, this is brought to you by JDP Media. And please go down, hit the like and subscribe button on this video. All right, Patrick, let's start with the quarterbacks. I like organization, so we'll just break it down by position. And essentially what I want to do is I want to say this guy surprised me for whatever reason. And then I just want your analysis, how you think they got there, whether it was right, wrong, what went right, what went wrong. We'll go from there, okay? So the first one was Baker Mayfield, who finished the season as the QB4. I have been very harsh on Baker on this channel for a number of years. I have to admit, last year I did end up picking up Baker because he was a free agent, and I started him. And
rightfully so, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say that my pride, you know, in my pride, I would love to say that I'm always right. But when I'm wrong, at least I can admit it. I'll go out and I'll grab the player and play him because this is a stats-based game. And I don't try to carry grudges because that ends up just hurting me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also I don't purposely not take players that are associated with a certain team. Teresa, with her Dallas Cowboys, we're looking at you. If you want to play that way, go for it. We support that. So it just means if I'm drafting right before or after you, I know who I can get away with waiting an extra pick on. So Baker ends up as quarterback number 4. I didn't see that coming. I will say though, as much as I have harped on him, I did say last year prior to the season starting that he had impressed me enough in 2023 that I wasn't quite so harsh. How did he wind up in the top 5?
I think it was a conglomeration of issues. I think that we saw he's healthy. I mean, he's just healthy. When he was in Cleveland, he could never stay healthy. And he's now had 2 years in Tampa, where first he was under Canales. And after not last year, but the previous year before that, a lot of people gave Canales the credit as if Baker's resurgence was something that he deserved most credit for. But then we saw it again under Liam Cohn, who now is coaching in Jacksonville. And I think maybe it's a coincidence that, he had 2 good offensive coordinators. But I think if the history of the league tells us anything, it's probably more likely than not that the quarterback has done something or something has changed structurally with the quarterback that's led to the success. And I think what it is the thing that's easiest to explain is just that Baker's healthy. He's in a system where he's got 2 really good receivers. Unfortunately for Godwin, obviously he got hurt. But you still have Mike Evans, who's still a top 15 receiver in the league. Well, at least as of last year. The age curve is quickly becoming a problem for him.
Yeah.
And you've got a great running back situation, first with Rashad White, now with Bucky Irving, he's in a situation where he can prosper. And you're in a division that's not very good.
Well, that's true.
So it was
kind of the perfect storm. And then McMillan, right? Jalen McMillan. What was
Jalen McMillan, yeah.
He was the rookie that ended up performing pretty well in the second half of the year last year.
Yeah, he's going to be a guy to keep an eye on here going forward because, we can get into it in a little bit with Godwin and Evans, but somebody's going to have to take that role into the future, and they're not going to be there too much longer.
Yeah, for sure. And Godwin, I believe, is a free agent this year. May not be back. He may be done already.
I actually, based on some of the stuff that I've heard, I think that there's an increasingly more likely chance that he is going to return. I think that he has a lot of incentive given. He loves Tampa, and I think they're going to be able to find the money for him. Evans, I think, continues to remain a mainstay in the offense. I think Godwin comes back. I really do. I think they find the money elsewhere.
Yeah, I could see that. So, yeah, Baker, a pleasant surprise when undrafted in a lot of leagues. So.
For sure.
Next surprised is a rookie. I'm not surprised that Jaden Daniels had a good season. I am surprised on how good of a season. He finished the year as quarterback number 5 last year.
Yeah, I love to victory lap this, but I was on the Caleb Williams train. I'm no Bears fan myself. And Jaden Daniels, in my opinion, what we likely saw with Jaden was a higher, a performance that was on the higher end of the spectrum of what he was likely to give you. With the running, the throwing, it's hard for me to see that level of production sustaining in his career, given the way he plays the game. You started to see it late in the year where he was getting banged up, and I think it was a rib issue. I think he had
right after I traded for him, by the way.
That's unfortunate. But I think he's always going to have the upside to be an elite player. But I think he's as vulnerable as we ever believed Lamar Jackson was, and then some.
As I say, probably more.
He could put on weight. I just don't believe he's got the frame for it to sustain the weight in a way that's going to allow him to play the way he wants to play.
I would agree with that. And the thing is, in the draft, his talent was undeniable. In our fantasy drafts is what I'm saying, not the NFL draft. But I purposely didn't draft him in any league, specifically because of that. And then I got suckered in. 8 weeks into the season, I needed a quarterback. My other quarterback went down. And, I go out there and I trade for him. And then shortly after that, he picks up the rib injury. And I was like, yeah, well, go figure. That's kind of what I thought. But yeah. I was really surprised at how well he spread the ball out. It wasn't just Terry McLaurin. Zach Ertz regained relevance. You had Diami Brown. You had all these different pieces, and he used them all. I really did a good job.
There's also something to be said about where we set expectations as well. Mm-hmm. Caleb came in, and his expectations were through the roof. And Jaden was able to kind of I don't want to say fly under the radar, but the expectations weren't there. I mean, they were expected to finish with 5 wins in the division. They were able to come in and compete immediately for the division all year long. And for really the first half of the year, I don't want to say he didn't fly under the radar, but he was able to come in and be himself without the expectation that he had to be the guy that carried the load. And so the fact that he did was just a bonus. And it's incredibly impressive. It really is. But he's got some fundamental issues beyond his health that it makes me question the long-term viability of the offensive success there. I mean, Terry McLaurin is a really nice player, but he's 29. He's not getting any younger. And they're going to bring in Debo now, who's a situational guy that we'll talk about here in a little bit, not getting any younger. If you look at his analytics stuff behind the scenes, he has trouble separating in man and zone coverage, and what you're likely going to see out of him is a lot of short yardage stuff, a lot of stuff close to the line of scrimmage, a lot of dump off screens, stuff in the flats, and there's going to be easy stuff to be had for Jaden, but Terry McLaurin is not a burner. He's not. He's a well balanced receiver, but I'm skeptical that they're going to be able to have a vertical offense going into the future because they need a receiver that's closer into that age curve window that's 24, 25, 26, and he's getting paid like a quasi number one, and going into the future he's probably not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much of his work gets carved out by Debo. We'll find out. How about the next guy here? Now, this is a shocker to me. So the quarterback that finished number 7 last year, I'm going to mention his name here in a second. He ended up scoring more points than both Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. That's a shocker. But Bo Nix finished the season last year as QB7. I did not see that coming.
Nobody did. And if anybody say they did, they're probably lying to you.
They're full of
nobody saw it. Nobody saw that coming. From what I understand, though, the way the offense was structured last year is in a way that really supplemented what Bo did well. Mm-hmm. And so the expectation that NFL defenses, NFL head coaches, NFL coordinators are not going to pick those intricate things off and that be able to incorporate them into their defense and then alter them and force him to change the way he plays if there's just no reason to believe he'll be able to sustain that level of production. Now, maybe he continues to be an albatross, and I'll be the first one to admit I was wrong. I was wrong on last year. I was wrong until the end of the year, and maybe I'm just a Debbie Downer. But the reality is he doesn't have the arm to stretch the field. He plays in a place that late into the year is going to require you to have the arm strength to get the ball down the field. And granted, there's some weapons there with Cortland Sutton, and their running back situation's kind of in flux right now. And granted, Sean Payton is a wizard, but when NFL defenses figure out what you do well, and then they force you to change, do you have the structural dynamics to be able to take that and do something different? And I'm quite skeptical, given what Bo gave us in college and then what he's produced in the NFL, that he's going to be able to change his game. He just doesn't have the mechanical tools to be able to do it. He doesn't have the big arm strength. He doesn't have the elite speed. Granted, he's a pretty good runner, but I just always feel like he's going to be a very league average quarterback. And I don't think last year's unexpected performance is something to expect going forward.
Fair enough. That's kind of my thoughts too. He did get a lot of his points running the ball, but he is not a dual threat quarterback. He is a nice runner. I think you put it really well. He's a nice runner. He can, but it's not really his game. Kind of the way Patrick Mahomes. Nice runner, can do it. Not really his game, but Bo Nix does not have the arm that Patrick Mahomes has.
Yeah, and just as it relates to Mahomes, a couple of years ago, defenses fundamentally changed the way they started playing him. They started playing a lot of cover two, and they were just saying, "You're not going to beat us deep." And when when defenses tell Bo Nix, "You're not going to beat us short anymore," I am incredibly skeptical that he's got the arm strength to be able to deliver those outside the hash throws in the intermediate part of the defense and into the third level. I'm just highly skeptical that he's got the tools to be able to do that effectively.
I agree 100%. All right, so how about a quarterback that really did not live up to expectations? And we're going to go with Trevor Lawrence. He finished the season as QB number 27. I know that he was battling some injuries, but every NFL player at some point throughout the season is battling injuries. Lawrence was drafted as a QB1. I mean, I saw him going as early as the 6th or 7th round. I usually wait on drafting a quarterback, so it wasn't by me, but I had 0 shares of him last year. But at the same time, I didn't expect that either. So what went wrong? They had the weapons. They had a ton of weapons. Because when you look at it, I know Evan Ingram, he missed quite a bit of time, but he's a 100 reception tight end. When he's out on the field, he's productive. I mean, they still had Christian Kirk until he got injured. Oh, wait a minute. We're getting a trend here.
Yeah.
And then, but Brian Thomas Jr., holy smokes, we're going to talk about him in the wide receiver section of this.
Yeah, I think if you look at the bones of what the offense has, there's something to work with there. Brian Thomas Jr., his upside is as good as anyone's. He is an elite receiver. He can separate at the point of breaking off his routes, and there's clearly production there in terms of fantasy. You've got a pretty good running back in ETN. The offensive line's a little bit of a work in progress, but I still believe in Lawrence. I don't know that I believe in him as a top 5 quarterback, but I believe in him in an above average league setting. What people have to understand is I think going back to your point about developing patterns here, I think Doug Peterson has developed a pattern. When Shane Steichen left, even going back before that, when Frank Reich left, there was a transitional period, and Carson Wentz wasn't so great when he left. And then Shane Steichen left. And then there was a transition period with Jalen Hurts, where people had a lot of the same questions until they were able to get into that second year after Steichen left. And so I think what is happening is I'm not sure that Doug Peterson is that great of an offensive mind. I'm quite skeptical, and I think that combined with the fact that he's not a great offensive mind, along with all the injury issues you had at the quarterback position, that I think it was a culmination of just a lot of really bad situational stuff. And with Liam Cohen now being It'll be an interesting test to see how much of what Baker did was Baker and how much of it was a fluke in getting 2 elite coordinators. But we'll see if Cohen can put it all together and if Lawrence can get back on track. I'm a little more bullish than bearish, though.
Okay. And there's going to be an adjustment period because, new offensive coordinator or new offensive-minded head coach comes in. They lose Christian Kirk to the Texans in a trade. Evan Ingram just got released. He may end up coming back on a restructured deal. I mean, I don't know that he will or won't, but either way, no matter how you look at it, it's going to look very different than it has in the past. All right, so looking at this, we went through 4 or 5 quarterbacks here that surprised us, either good or bad. Go down to the comment section. Let us know who surprised you, good, bad, or otherwise. As always, make sure you defend your position. Don't just go down there and name drop. Tell us why. Who did you think overperformed versus expectation, and who underperformed? All right, anything else for this one?
No, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
All right. Make sure you come back for the next video. We are going to go over running back surprises last year, including a running back who got a massive contract extension already in the offseason this year.
Yeah, that's a fat contract.
That's a big contract for a running back. All right, make sure you go down and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you go down to the comment section. Let us know, again, who you think over or underperformed based upon expectations. And we will see you in the next video. See ya.